Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new move review. I'm Chris Garner, joined tonight with Tayte in the Hour to give our review on the 2017 period crime drama Detroit, directed by Kathryn Bigelow. This is a movie that came out last week for us in the UK, or even before then, I guess you can say. This has had one of the most sort of staggered and weird release schedules of a film I think I've seen all year. George was the first one of all three of us to see this movie, and he probably saw it about 3 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
There were a few advanced screenings here and there. There were really awkward times. I really wanted to get to this movie as soon as it came out. Didn't get the chance to, so I had to wait until official release, which was last week. Tayte, I believe you saw it a couple of days after I did.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
It's really just been waiting for a time that any of us could get onto a podcast at all. Not a podcast, like a live stream, anything at all. We did want to get George on too, but he is busy buying Star Wars things or doing something Star Wars related. Couldn't make it on tonight. But this is definitely an important film, and this is a film that I absolutely had to talk about after I watched it. So, Tayte, over to you with the trusty IMDb. Let people know what Detroit is about.
IMDb. Detroit is, amidst the chaos of the Detroit Rebellion, the city under curfew, and as the Michigan National Guard patrolled the streets, 3 young African-American men were murdered at the Algiers motel. Wow. They just go and spoil the plot there, don't they? Oh my God. I guess we're not even doing a spoiler section because that kind of spells out already that 3 people die in this film. I guess the only spoiler would be which one of the 3 are the 3 people who die.
I think we'll keep this to spoiler-free for the most part. I know you've given away what happens, but there are some things that are still a surprise about the film.
I mean, come on, IMDb. Seriously? You're going to just go and basically spell out the entire film straight up there? I'll do a spoiler-free one if you wanted. Amidst the chaos of the Detroit Rebellion, a couple of people, including a singer and a hairdresser, seek refuge in a hotel whilst the violence goes on outside.
Yes. And maybe it comes inside too.
That's the one.
It seems really pointless now. We've done spoilers. We've done spoilers at the start. I'm going to be honest though. I knew nothing about this true life event, which makes me feel like a really, really horrible person. As if this film doesn't give me white guilt already. Like just the fact that I'm just this ignorant slut that doesn't know anything about history or anything that goes on here.
I knew a tiny bit about it. I knew about the Detroit riots and kind of the devastation of them. I didn't really know much about the stories that kind of got interwoven into it. But they do say at the start of the film, at the end of the film, that some of the characters' names were made up, some of the characters were made up, but it is based upon the events that took place. And there are some inaccuracies, there are some accuracies to what took place. However, the general theme of, I guess, as it says in IMDb, 3 people die, people took refuge in this hotel, and it wasn't a place of refuge, still remain the same.
Yeah, and I respect I don't know if I'm guessing that was Kathryn Bigelow's suggestion for putting that caption at the end, that we will never 100% know for sure what happened that night, just because, you know, just evidence and things like that. It's not substantial.
So basically, the story is a mixture of eyewitness and police statements from the event.
And especially surrounding that time, evidence could get swept under the rug. So we will never know. We will never 100% know. And I do respect Kathryn Bigelow for putting that, because often there's the case with these films come out saying true story and everything, and they're usually wildly inaccurate and they don't have any kind of warning or anything like that. So I do respect the film for this. Before we get into the actual film, let's talk Kathryn Bigelow for a bit, because I've just gone through her filmography. I had no idea that she directed the 1987 film Near Dark, which is a fantastic vampire movie, or more importantly, Point Break, one of my favorite action movies ever made.
Point Break. I knew about Point Break because when she won the Oscar for The Hurt Locker, first thing I was like, oh, okay, this can't be her first film. Looked through them, and I saw Point Break, and I thought, Jesus Christ, no way. It's oh Christ, seriously. You watch Detroit as far as filmmaking is concerned, and you compare it to a film like Point Break. It's weird. If we're going into the actual filmmaking of this film, I would say that Point Break is a very clean film compared to this. I feel like the only sequences which you can really compare it to are the chase sequences. Where it's kind of all handheld cam, slightly shaky, it immerses you immediately inside it. This film is one of the most immersive films I've seen in a long time. You feel like you were there in the hotel throughout the entire run of the film. You feel like you're almost a character who is just kind of, you're a fly on the wall in this film, basically. And it's phenomenal how it drags you in and pulls you in, but it's completely different to Point Break, which I would say is a very clean film compared to this. This film is a very kind of gritty, kind of, even in, not alone in just its material, but in the way it's filmed, it feels very gritty and very immersive, which is a very different style of filmmaking, I would say.
There's moments of the film where it feels like you're watching a straight up documentary film, or
Yeah.
even like first handheld footage there. And they do intersperse real life footage, I think, in some parts, and in other times they mock the footage up to mirror that and to make it look like it. So there's some moments where it does blend the lines between real and made up to look real, which I thought was fantastic. Usually I really hate the use of shaky cam in films, but it completely worked for this one. This film is without a doubt one of the tensest films I've ever seen in my life. I was left breathless through most of it. I was left at edge of my seat. I know that's thrown out a lot, but I genuinely was with this film. And it was interesting because when George first watched this movie, he was comparing it a lot to Dunkirk, and he was trying to decide which movie he thought was the best of the year so far, whether it was Dunkirk or whether it was this film, Detroit. And he said there's a lot of similarities between the two because both of them deal with obviously real life events. Both are incredibly tense, and the tension just maintains throughout. Almost with Dunkirk, sorry, it's the entire film. With this, it's sort of like a big act towards the third mark of the film, or the final third. I don't know at this point which one I would say is a better movie, but this one has definitely had the most impact on me. I'm still thinking about this movie. As soon as I saw this film, I felt like I just needed to talk to someone, like someone just needed to console me. I went to... there's a Costa coffee basically attached to my cinema, and as soon as I saw the film, I had a bit of time to kill, wanted to get a coffee and just sort of like mull over my thoughts after the movie. And the guy behind the counter was like, "You're right, Chris." And I was like, "Not really. I just went to see Detroit," and it's like just completely shook my world. Yeah. It really did. This is probably taking Near Dark and Point Break out of the equation. If we're just going with her last couple of films, for example, Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, and this one, this is probably my favorite out of those three films that she's done. Zero Dark 30, whilst I can see that it was a good film, it never really grabbed my attention. There's a lot of points where the characters felt very boring to me. I couldn't connect with everyone. The last part of that film where they're trying to get Osama bin Laden, and it's again bringing in that handheld footage, that really worked for me. But you've got to go through like 2 hours 20 of a movie to get there. With this one, I was wrapped up with all of the characters and the event. Well, when they get to the Algiers hotel, that you could almost make that like a short movie within itself. It was incredible filmmaking.
For me, it's slightly more difficult. And I feel like it didn't really affect me as much as it would have with you, because I personally have experienced racist firsthand and also secondhand. I mean, my dad is black, so obviously you see that sometimes in different places, and it does shock you at the time. And maybe that took away a little bit of the shock factor from this film, because instead it just made it totally believable for me. Like, it wasn't a, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I don't want to believe it was happening kind of deal. It was a, I completely understand that this is happening. Like, I can understand how a situation like this would develop, and I can completely understand how they are reacting due to the thoughts of the time.
Yeah.
And maybe that took away a little bit of the kind of shock value from it, but it's still quite a powerful film, and it's a film that people should definitely watch for that message alone. It really does kind of put you back in that situation. I want to drive home that point, and all of the characters, I mean, even the ones who we'd say in this film are the villains, you completely believe their characters.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they go real deep into their own characters and their own personal flaws within people and how the situation affects them and literally everything. I don't think there's a single bad actor in this film, which was surprising, because sometimes they'll always have like a dud actor in there and stuff like that. But no, this film seriously had good acting talent in there, especially, my God, Will Poulter.
Yeah, stand out. I think everyone's talking about him after this movie.
He's probably going to get nominated for a supporting actor Oscar. And to be honest, after seeing him in The Revenant, which I still like to this day, I I'm pretty sure the only person on the podcast who really does quite like that film quite a
I
lot.
liked it. I haven't watched it a second time. I think it was a bit overhyped for me from trailers, and then I watched it and I was kind of, it was okay.
Oh no, as far as a filmmaking standpoint, that film, it sticks with me. It really does. But seriously, seeing him from the very, very early beginnings, seeing him in The Maze Runner, even We Are the Millers, where he pulls off a hilarious performance. It's so good to see him come so far and do a serious performance like this. I think he's going to win an Oscar at some point.
Yeah.
It's just
if I'm looking at last year's, though, there was one actor who had like a really intense and sort of scary performance, and that was Aaron Taylor-Johnson in oh god, what was it called? Amy Adams. Nocturnal Animals. I think he should have been nominated for that, but Michael Shannon was instead. I really hope that isn't the case for this year, because by God, Will Poulter.
Do you think they'll nominate Boyega instead? I don't think Boyega had much in this film.
Well, this is what I was going to say, because I mean, Boyega, everywhere you look, is top billed in this film, and when you watch the trailer, they focus a lot on his character, and I was surprised that. I mean, don't get me wrong, he has.
I feel that is purely because of Star Wars. That's the only reason why he's up there. If Will Poulter was in Star Wars, he would be top billed and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And don't get me wrong, Boyega was fantastic in this film, and he does play a big part in this film, but he is not the focus of this film.
No way.
This is an ensemble film, I would say. I would say there is an all-out main character of the film who they probably focus on a lot more, and that's I think that's Algee Smith, isn't it? Who is the singer of the Dramatics in the film. I think he has the biggest sort of like character arc and character journey out of all the ones involved.
But then you look down the cast, and you've got people in there. I mean, I think George said this. He didn't realize until halfway through the film that Hannah Murray was in this. If you don't know who Hannah Murray is, she's Gilly from Game of Thrones. Yeah,
and she was amazing. This is the only thing outside of Game of Thrones that I've actually seen her in. Actually,
Skins, Chris. What
Skins? I know.
This is her, and Gendry's in Skins as well. So is what's his face? Person who plays Beast in the new X-Men.
Oh, Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult is in it. So is my god, it's such a good cast. Dev Patel was in it. First acting role for him. Yeah. Seriously, Skins built up everyone. You never know.
I will get on it. I have Iron Fist and Defenders to get through first, which I will do when.
What's her face? Is it person who was in Maze Runner and also the new Pirates of the Caribbean film was also in there?
Oh, the one who played Barbossa's daughter.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, spoiler alert. If anyone hasn't seen Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, or Salazar's Revenge, I do apologize. Going back to Will Poulter, though, quickly, the only thing I've seen him in before this was Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
No, you would have seen him in, what's it called? You saw him in Maze Runner.
Oh, and I didn't see Maze Runner. I saw The Revenant, but I can't place who he played in that. I remember Tom Hardy. I remember Brendan... Donald Gleeson. No, Donald Gleeson, and Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't remember him in it. For me, he's always going to be that kid from Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn.
He was the kid in Son of Rambo.
I didn't watch Son of Rambo. I watched proper Rambo. Thank you very much.
Okay, that might be the next film club.
Okay. But no, he was... Never have I seen a character who I have actively detested and hated and longed for them to get their comeuppance all the way through, probably since Percy in The Green Mile or Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm going to add this guy to the top 3 most hated bad guys in a movie. But I mean, it was a fantastic performance from Will Poulter. He is by far the standout to me in this film. Such an intense performance, and just to see that level of hatred from that character, it's really terrifying.
It's not just the hatred from the character; it's the fact that
he believes what he's doing is right.
He believes what he's doing is right, and because of that, he exudes confidence, and that means the people around him kind of follow him on that trend. And it gets to the point where you hate this character. You absolutely hate this character. But you just kind of... There is something about him which you know is just like... But he just seems like a normal guy. And then he just kind of... Underneath that layer of normal guy-ness, like, there is that racist kind of aggressive tendency. You remove that racism and that aggressive tendency, he would be a protagonist, basically. He really would. It's just that underlying thing which defines his character, which makes him overly villainous. Seriously, it's ridiculous. I think as far as villains of the year, he's got this one already.
Yeah.
Like,
And I mean,
it's
without going too much into spoilers, there's a moment towards the beginning of the film where he guns a guy down who had just like stolen some groceries,
stolen some bread and groceries, and the
and
guy bleeds out.
yeah, I know the guy's stolen, but like to shoot the guy in the back, like, and he does that, and like he's cautioned by by his superior, and he's just like, yeah, don't do it again. that kind of
I know.
situation, and you're like, oh my
I feel
god.
like in that situation, he's more concerned about the fact that there are riots taking place, about the fact that there is kind of that
They need
situation.
everyone they
They
can.
need everyone they can, and because of that,
Yeah.
they allowed to go back in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think one thing this film does really well, because I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting it to just solely focus on the hotel and the events that took place at the hotel. This film is split into 3 different parts. It's split into the riots actually breaking out, basically. So the events that led up to the breakout of the riots, followed up by the hotel incident, shall we say, followed up by the after effect afterwards. So the court cases that take place and the effect that it had on people, and just kind of the aftermath of the whole situation. And I mean, I guess we'll talk about the ending when we get to the ending. Sorry, when we get to spoiler section, but like it's a brilliantly structured film. I say it was quite a slow start and it was quite a slow finish, but that was needed.
Yeah,
because there are so many flashpoints in the middle. They just kind of keeps you going on, keeps going on, keeps going on. And even though the finish is a bit slower, you want to know about the finish because of all of the flashpoints come previously. You want to know what happens.
I think when you get to the ending, I mean, I didn't have a problem with the length of the movie. I think it needed to be that length to really flesh everything out and to tell the events as they needed to be told. But because the Algiers hotel sequence is so just hard hitting, you are left breathless at the end of that thing. It feels like a climax. And then the film goes on for probably another 20, maybe 25 minutes. I didn't really time, probably 20 minutes where it just sort of like wraps everything up of where it led to after that. So maybe that's where people are thrown off by the pacing. It is a long movie. It is quite a very tough movie. And it's a film where, don't get me wrong, this is absolutely going to be on my list of best films this year. I have no question of that. But I think I'd struggle to find a moment where I'd be in that right frame of mind to watch this movie again, purely for the effect that it had on me. It's one of those, like a lot of my favorite films were like Green Mile, for example, fantastic movie. I will never know when I will be in a frame of mind to watch that movie again, even though it's in my top 10 favorite films ever made. When I want to cry, I'll watch 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah, definitely.
What else was I going to say about this movie? You were talking about how the film opens up with the riots and everything like that, and it really does establish that. And to me, it felt, comparing it again to Dunkirk, it felt like a war movie. It felt like this was literal war on the streets. And I guess you could argue that it was for all intents and purposes. How it was filmed, how, like the explosions on the street, the loot and everything like that. It did feel like a grounded war movie for me. And even like when you do get to the Algiers towards the end, and sort of like you had the graininess in the picture quality and everything, which again I guess gave it sort of credence to like the time that it came out. They were trying to go for that 60s. I think go into the 70s, or is it just late 60s? Because it does
into 70s, I believe.
Yeah. I'm gonna compare. This is gonna be a bit big of a stretch, but it felt like Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me, with like the graininess. And it sort of felt like a very personal handheld film, very disturbing in some moments.
What you said earlier was perfectly kind of describing it. It felt like a documentary in some points.
Yeah.
It really did. But yeah, should we move on to the spoiler section now?
Yes.
So I feel like if we told any more, then we would basically be telling you about the film. But seriously, as far as the suggestion is concerned, go watch this.
Go and see this movie. Be in the right frame of mind. This isn't a happy movie, but it's an important movie, I think, and I think it's a film that everyone should see at some point. I don't even know if it's still playing at this point. I think it's probably going to drop off soon. It hasn't really made all that much money. It's done on a budget of 34 million, and so far it's made 17.1. I don't think that's a fault of the movie itself at all. It's a fault of the marketing and the really awkward release schedule, I think. But no, go and see this movie, absolutely. So into spoilers we go. Tate, where would you like to kick off?
I want to kick off at the very, 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 very start of the film. I really wasn't expecting it to be kind of them show the riots at the very, very, very start. I really wasn't. I thought it was going to kick off straight into the hotel and the entire film would be kind of based around the hotel, but they wanted to show the slow build of how the riots came into being and how that kind of went out of control and how it built up and built up and built up. And I think that helped a lot with the pacing because it kind of started off with a snowball effect. Instead of throwing you straight in the deep end, it starts slow, 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 slow. You see kind of people in the streets rioting and stuff like that. Then you have more people getting involved. Then you're seeing it affect the wider community, and the snowball is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you're in this situation where the Algiers hotel, it was going to happen.
Yeah,
there was no way of avoiding it. It just needed that tiny kind of that little kind of inkling of a reason to why there would be a provoked attack, and as soon as that opportunity came, boom, done.
Yeah, and going back to like literally the very start of the movie, we talked a little bit about this as well because I wondered why they did it in this particular style. But I was worried going into this film that it might just sort of like throw you into the deep end and you really sort of like struggle to follow everything and the disputes between everyone and how it came about. But it pretty much lays it out for you right from the off with a text screen, and it's done in this strange like animated style. And I'm guessing it's some like form of artwork or done in the style of artwork from the area of Detroit. And it kind of threw me at the beginning, but I thought that was quite a nice touch to it ultimately. It doesn't really match anything and it's not really bookended with anything like that, but I thought that was, if you're going to do a text screen, it was done with an interesting, you know, backdrop with the artwork. And if that is tied to the area of Detroit, for example, that artwork, then I think that was a really nice touch throwing that in there as well. God, what else would I want to talk about?
I want to talk about the ending because I feel like if you're still here at this stage and you haven't seen the film, it doesn't matter about this spoiler, really, but to know that they all kind of got away with it and it was swept underneath the rug, that all of the convictions done against the police officers that were involved were not guilty in the end, especially after the actual killings of the people taking place, especially with witness evidence.
Well, it says they never returned to duty, but the fact that they weren't charged.
The all-white jury said not guilty, and that really underlined the case. And that's the reason why I'd say this film was made in this modern age. Because this is one of America's darkest hours, I would say. Yeah. Also one of the most the forgotten and swept under the carpet moments. Yeah. Because of that.
And stuff like this does still happen sometimes.
Of course it does. But at the same time, the ending to show that they all got away with it and to show that they were kind of laughing going out of the area. And even the point where two of the police officers basically admitted to crime taking place and pinned on one of the other police officers, to have their evidence basically thrown out of court, that evidence that they gave themselves to be lawfully thrown out of court, so that evidence was not considered in the final judgment, was ridiculous. It really was. And I think this film kind of is perfectly summed up with that. All these horrible things can happen, but given the right situation, people can get away with it. And I think that was the message that she was trying to get across in this film. And I think she did a very good job of it. And I think it will make people a bit more aware. I think it will. Definitely. And I think it is a very important film for these times as well. We have a lot of issues that are present at the moment, which have been addressed in recent years. I mean, Moonlight was brilliant last year for addressing the issues of kind of the struggles of being homosexual in America and being kind of almost in that kind of neighborhood where it's very unaccepting of that and having to deal with those lively struggles. There are so many important films coming out nowadays, but this one I think will go down in history as being one of the most important in the end.
Yeah,
I really do.
Absolutely agree. I'm trying to think of some other bits. Sticking with the ending there, one of the parts that really did hit home for me of just how clueless these police officers were in what they were doing is where they're basically trying to do an interrogation tactic where they'll take one of them, take them into another room, pretend to shoot them in order to coax out a confession from someone outside the room. And Will Poulter's character says to the guy who was in Transformers 4, I don't know who he is. I forgot the actor's name. He was actually really good in this. He says, take one of them, go into that room and shoot them. And obviously he didn't pass the information on, saying that obviously don't kill them. This is interrogation. And he just outright shoots him. Yeah. Completely shows the incompetence. That made me really frustrated. in this film. I was just exasperated by this film. I was hurt by the end of this film. This film really did a number on me, and especially when I saw where it was going towards the end. You see them like planting evidence on people as well, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have another knife to plant. Like, we've got to get our story straight." When they were trying to pin it on Boyega towards the end, and that was probably my favorite scene that Boyega acted. Like, once he realizes as well what they're trying to do, and he just gets so scared that his voice is trembling, he's shaking. I thought that was a fantastic performance from him. I did wonder though why oh god, I forgot her name, the one who plays Gilly from Game of Thrones, why she picked him out of the crowd when they do the
I think it was one of those, you're kind of being forced into it
into picking it.
But
what else? And Algee Smith's character as well. I didn't expect them. I love how they brought the Motown into it as well. I mean, that's one of my favorite genres of music, although his character kind of makes me feel bad for liking that kind of music based on his decision at the end. But I like, it starts off in the clubs, for example. You see on stage there's the song Nowhere to Run playing by, I'm totally not looking at my iPod right now, Martha and the Vandellas. I love me some Motown music, so just to have that kind of feel to it as well and have that brought in, and especially because it's tied to the character who was one of the singers of the Dramatics, and then he exited the band for personal reasons after the ordeal he went through. The people in he saw that basically they were making music for white people, and he saw the sort of head honchos of the record companies were all white as well, and he didn't want to be a part of it, so he becomes a singer at a church choir. I really liked that journey for the character, and it's actually made me really interested to like read the history of the Dramatics now as a band. So I love that character journey that he went through, and towards the end of the film it really does sort of like single him out with the journey that he went through and what he experienced, and ultimately his entire career change, life change. I thought that was a really nice way to end the movie as well. And
say that he's still singing in that church to this day. Like, it shows like after kind of a horrible event happens, kind of not only the guilt of it not coming through and stuff like that, but the loss of his friends. He can't be dealing with like that happening to him, and like I can understand that completely. And it was kind of almost, I don't want to say a nice ending to his character arc. It was fitting. It was an acceptable, fitting ending to his character.
And I think, you know, once you've seen a harrowing film, because I'm going to be honest, like, including myself, there were 5 people in that screening, which was criminal. There were 2 people directly in front of me, and then 2 people sort of like just ahead of the midway point of the cinema. And when it cut to credits, everyone sat. I stayed till the end. Not everyone did, but you know, like when we went to see Kubo and the Two Strings, for example, we both talked about our cinema going experience, how everyone just sat and watched the credits because they'd witnessed something special. I think that was the case with this movie as well. Like, it was a particularly harrowing film, and at the end, I think people just had to sit just to take in what they'd experienced. And that's a sign of a good movie, and it's a sign that I mean, this is without a doubt probably my favorite Kathryn Bigelow film. She seems to have found a niche now. She's making films that are particularly about current affairs or some hard-hitting subject matter, and I think she's pretty much going to continue that trajectory as she carries on into a film career. But this, to me, has to be nominated for Best Picture. If it doesn't, I'm gonna write like I'm gonna have like a public outcry if this doesn't get nominated, and especially Will Poulter's performance as well for Best Supporting Actor. Go and see this movie, support this movie. It's an important film. You have to be in the right frame of mind, so I will caution people with that, but it's one that everyone should see at some point in their lives.
Seriously, go see this movie. Like, I can't recommend this enough, purely for the performance of Will Poulter, but also the performances of everyone else, the filmmaking, just the story, everything. And I think it will definitely, I mean, God, if it doesn't get nominated for an Oscar, I'm going to be absolutely livid. I think this actually deserves it more than Dunkirk in those kind of senses. I feel like it's more of an Oscar film than Dunkirk.
I think Dunkirk was definitely more of a spectacle in terms of a cinematic achievement. But this has the most impact with me in terms that I'm still thinking about it.
Even that, but looking back on Dunkirk now, after giving it a rest for a few months, I know George is going to absolutely kill me for this, but at the moment it's dipping off the end of my top 5 at the moment for the year, which I won't name at this present moment in time. But at the same time, it was a spectacle at the time, but I'm not
Dunkirk
invested
is
in
an
that film anymore.
experience. You turn it on, you're in it for an hour and 40.
I rate a lot on rewatchability. If I can
Mm.
rewatch a film, then I think that film holds higher up than it does any other film. It's why I probably prefer La La Land over Moonlight. I've seen Moonlight twice now, but I've seen La La Land like 6 or 7 times, and that is the difference right there. Two films which are equally amazing, and because of the rewatchability value, I've watched it more times. I don't know if I'd rather rewatch Detroit again or whether I'd rather rewatch Dunkirk again, but at this present moment in time, it'd probably be Detroit over the two, but they don't touch anywhere near the rewatchability value of the ones which are slightly higher up.
Mm. Yeah, I love both Dunkirk and this one. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting experiment when we get to the end of this year, and we do rank them. Maybe some better movies will come along. I don't know, and kick both of these off the top 5. But as it stands,
I really hope Blade Runner does. I really do.
Yeah. Me too. That's only 2 months away now. Well, a month away. Now we're in September, so not all too long to wait for that one at all. But that'll do it for our review for Detroit. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this movie. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Anything that we haven't talked about this film, please do get commenting. In terms of what's coming up on the channel, the schedule's a bit weird for this week. Like, I know at some point we'll be going live for a Game of Thrones speculation video as to what we expect for Game of Thrones Season 8. That'll be a kind of epilogue video to our series of all the reviews we've done on each of the episodes for Season 7. We'll be seeing Logan Lucky at some point, so expect a review out for that sometime next week. And look out for some more reaction videos from me next week as well, once I actually get time to watch and edit and record stuff. But hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time we bring out something new. That'll do it for us tonight. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.